Fan. The Fan and Wixon Jewelers want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand. Sorry, we're a little bit late, but it's our National Cash Contest, and the keyword for the 4 o'clock hour is cash. Text the keyword cash to 200-200.
Well, I had a hunch that today might be a difficult day to maintain clock management. We'll do the best we can to get caught up because we still have Lou Nanny after a short pause here. We've got Bob Hagan, Vikings Media Relations, at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. We have Bud Grant Part 2, and we also have, in the 5, and we also have Patrick Royce is scheduled to join us at about 5:30 this very evening. I have, like I said, I've got several more Sid stories. The tape recorder story I'll save, but I'm running out of time. When am I going to get the tape recorder story in? Do I do it right now, or is it going to put us too far behind?
We can do it. You can get it in now.
Well, let me do it now.
Why don't you do it with Louie?
I could do it with Louie. That's true. Maybe that's the way around.
Yeah.
But that might be the answer, because it's 100% true. I think I've told it before, but it's been quite a while. And in my mind's eye, I can still see it. And it's still, a lot of this stuff is very emotional for people. But the objective today, too, was also to try to put a smile on your face on some of the absurd stories that and battles we all had with Chad. In this case, or with Sid, I should say. In this case, it wasn't a battle so much as just an unusual occurrence after a Vikings game that was played at the Metrodome, and after Sid and I both went into the Star Tribune building at 425 Portland Avenue, which doesn't exist anymore. You get the pattern? My goodness, it just means we're all apparently getting old. Lou Nanny gets younger by the year, though. He just might have a Sid yarn or two to spin.
It's just like when a coach gets fired, everybody says, oh, the guys, the players love the coach, and maybe they did. And they say they feel bad that day, feel sorry for the coach, and next day, hey, where are you going for
you guys are practice?
Yeah.
How about your hockey guys?
That's what I'm saying, the same thing.
They were no bargain.
Hockey guys?
Some of your hockey guys I knew pretty well. They did pretty good.
How do we get onto these guys?
But should I tell you the difference? Should I tell you the difference?
They were good guys.
Don't tell me I knew about it.
There's no difference.
Let me just tell you, buddy.
What's this got to do?
If you let me say a word,
Okay, we're ready. Go ahead, Sid. Go ahead.
You're worse than Bart Starr.
The sports show, Louie. You, Sid, Royce. Oh, my goodness. Those are the days, eh?
They really were. We had so much fun. By the way, what a great conversation with Chad. You were just fabulous.
He was terrific. I really appreciate his willingness to not just come on, but to open up to the degree that he did. I'd heard some stuff I had not heard before. So, I don't know if you have any insight into this because, we played part one of our interview with Bud, and Bud says, look, he's been my best friend he was my best friend for 75 years. And even though he says we really didn't have all that much in common, he didn't, there are a lot of things they didn't agree on. One guy was athletic. One guy wasn't exactly that. One guy liked to hunt. The other guy didn't like to. But from afar, I almost feel like there are a lot of people who got close to Sid who weren't who were different in many, many ways. I don't know if you'd put yourself in that same category, but what is it that still had him develop, at least in some cases, these relationships, do you think?
Well, I think there was the trust that he built up right away with people. It was just amazing how close he could get to people so quickly. And people felt comfortable with him, and he certainly felt comfortable with everybody. If he didn't, he'd let you know about it. Sid couldn't hold back on anything. Whatever he was going to feel, he was going to say. So that was just his personality. So many people got close to Sid because they enjoyed being around him, but they trusted him. And he had a unique personality because, as you said, the guy wasn't gifted athletically, but people from the athletic world loved to be with him. The guy he was fun. Part of it was maybe his demeanor, and part of it was the fact that he could take a joke or picking on you because you knew he was going to pick on you back. So, I mean, there was a lot of give and take. And it was so funny, time and time again, like you were just playing on a sports show. I just wish that people could see what happened when we were off camera, because it was just unbelievable. And after that, and he was like me, he likes pie. And after the show, whenever I'd be in a show with him, we'd have to go for pie. He and I and Maxie would always go for a piece of pie. Royce would come occasionally. But and just to see him interact even with the waitresses, the people, sitting in booths, or, we might get a little loud. It was a unique thing, because he was a unique person.
Chad talked a lot about his level of competitiveness, which I know very well. You know very, very well as well. And as an example of that, it would show up on everything, including if he has a book out and you have a book out, he wants to believe there's no chance that you could sell more books than he could sell. It never, that was him. That was a part of him, and it didn't matter what the subject was. He was going to continue to push and to basically attempt to leave you with the idea of you never got the better of him, correct?
Well, I got to tell you, Pat Royce, he edited my book with Bob Showers, and he also, as you know, did Sid's book. And so when we had the opening, when I was taking History and Memory of the North Stars out, we had it downtown at Barnes & Noble. And Sid said, I can't remember who he said it to. He said, I don't think many people go to that. Do you think? And they said, I think they're going to be. And we had just a humongous crowd, 4 hours.
We were there. We did a show. One of the times we did a show from there with you. Yeah.
Well, the best was, so we sold a lot of books. And while we're selling the books, I looked up, and Sid's book that he had brought out a year ago was upstairs on the second floor of Barnes & Noble. And here he comes with an armful of books. He must have had 10 books. And he brought them right down to the counter and put them right beside the cash register where my book was. And I said to Showers, I said, take a look at that. He just will not stop. He's got to sell books. It doesn't matter what it is. It's so funny. He would do things that just I couldn't believe.
Yeah.
The first time I met him was in September. I came down now, remember, I come from Canada. In Canada, they have grades 9, 10, 11, 12, and we had 13 then, which was like the first year of college. Mm-hmm. I never knew the words freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So I came down after Mariucci brought me down to show me the campus, recruit me. I came back, and the first day of class, Mariucci says, go over and get some equipment from the athletic department so you can work out. And so I went over, and Milt was the equipment manager then, and he said to me, can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm Lou Nanny. John Mariucci sent me over to pick up some equipment on with the hockey team. And he said, are you a freshman? I thought he said, are you a Frenchman? And I said, no, I'm Italian. and Milt, of course, Sid was there every day because the university sports were the biggest thing in those days. We didn't have the Twins or Vikings or any of them yet. So the next day he puts it in there and he makes fun of me. And I hadn't met him yet. And about being an Italian instead of a freshman, So when he came over that day, that's the first time I met him. He said, you don't understand what you got here, what you're doing here? And I'll never forget, before I even knew him, he had to make fun of me in the paper.
Yeah.
And he just was like that. He had that devilishness about him. And he just had the ability to get under some people's skins. And if he did, boy, he'd never let up.
The irony about Sid, a lot of the average rubes don't know, is that, his whole, in print, he was Mr. Positive, right? Royce and I were the agitators, and he was Mr. Positive. And yet, I know Royce can testify to this, and I certainly can't. During games, there was nobody who could get more negative about what the team was doing, the home team was doing. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. They could be up 14. I don't like the way they're playing. They're going to lose. That guy's awful. That guy's overrated. And it used to crack us both up because you go, well, where is this in print? We never see this in print from you. You're Mr. Negative during the games, and it just shows you he had another side to him. He rarely allowed that to be revealed in what he wrote, but he could be pretty cranky about the home team when he was in the mood for it. I'm sure you ran into that from time to time.
Ran into it. Well, the best case I'll ever tell you about, when I took over as general manager, when we had a first-round pick, we draft him, we take him into the town, and we'd have a dinner the night before, usually at Interlochen Country Club. And I invited Sid. Sid always came to the dinner. Mm-hmm. There was me, the coach, my wife, and the draft choice, and Sid. That would be the dinner. So now you got to remember, the first guy I drafted was Bobby Smith. And Bobby was a tremendous player. And he was a tremendous player all the way along. About 4 or 5 years in, and he wasn't happy with the amount of ice time was getting, and maybe he wasn't playing as well as he had been. And so he wanted to be traded, and I said, no, I'm not trading. This went on for 6 months. Well, coming into the season when I did trade him, it was in October, and Bobby was having an off game. Sid came down to where I was sitting in the press box. He says, geez, Bobby's playing like that. You're going to have to trade him. You can't keep him on. You're going to have to move him. I said, no, I don't think so. So I'll tell you, I think you're going to have to trade him. Well, he didn't know that I was going through this at the time with the trade. It wasn't a week later I traded Bobby Smith, and we were playing at home the day that I traded him. Sid comes down to me. He says, how could you trade Bobby Smith? I can't believe you did that. I said, Sid, you told me to do it. That's the only reason why I did it. No, I didn't. I said, yes, you did. I wouldn't want to trade him. There was no way. I said, I lean on you for everything. I thought you were convinced that I had to get rid of him. Now I can't get him back. What am I going to do? He said, don't tell anybody that. I didn't tell you that. And he ran away.
Well, that's classic.
And just like you said, he'd get negative in the press box.
Yeah.
Even when he loved people or teams and nobody else saw it. You would never see it in print.
He'd get frustrated. He because he wanted the teams to win so badly and to excel. He took it personally, so he would absolutely get frustrated. He would rarely, again, reveal it the next day in the paper, but he would definitely feel it as the game was going on.
And look at how many times, he'd react like nobody else, in the press box as far as the media goes, and yelling and screaming at the officials or stuff like that. And boy, he did let the officials know too. In any sport, if he ran into them, he would tell them that they were terrible.
I mentioned earlier the great tape recorder story that I have, which I don't know if you've heard. I've offered it up a couple times over the years. So and the front page of the Star Tribune Sports section was a brilliant, I thought, cover, blank all the way down to a drawing of the big tape recorder that he's known for. Seems to be out of the dark ages, for God's sake. Well, this is when the Vikings were still playing at the Metrodome. And for home games, what would generally happen is we would, go down to the locker room after, talk to people, and he and I, and Patrick too, would then walk over back to 425 Portland Avenue, where the Star Tribune used to be, and write our columns there. So on this occasion, Sid and I happened to both get done about the same time. So we're leaving Star Tribune, crossing Portland onto the parking lot, to get at about the same time. He's a little ahead of me, so he doesn't see that I'm out there too. And we both go to our respective cars. And I look back and I see he's opened the trunk of his car, and he has placed his briefcase in the car, in the trunk. And then he's moving to, get in the driver's side of the vehicle to drive off, but his trunk lid is still up. So now I'm saying, well, surely he's going to notice that, right? Well, he didn't. He starts backing, out of the parking place, and he's driving. I sprint to try to catch him, and I can't. So he wheels out of the parking lot, hits a bump, car goes up and down, and sure enough, the briefcase, actually it may have just been the tape recorder, comes bounding out of the back of the vehicle. He continues to drive on his merry way. The trunk lid is flapping up and down Portland Avenue, and he doesn't seem to have any clue. So I retrieve said tape recorder. I call somebody at the actually, I waited till I got home. And I just brought it with me because in the back of my mind, I'm going, maybe I'll have some fun with this. So I called Dennis Bracken, who was one of the assistant sports editors then. I said, hey, Bracken, I've got Sid's tape recorder. He didn't even realize